Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video.
Oh, Neptune.
Sucker Punch is one of my favorite gaming studios, with just about every franchise under their belt being absolute bangers. You have Sly Cooper, Infamous, and now the Ghost series. Ghost of Tsushima was a fantastic open world samurai game, with a gorgeous setting and addicting combat. Ghost of Yōtei is the sequel to this critically acclaimed game. But with most Sony sequels, there is this fear that the newer title is just more of the same, with not much to distinguish itself from its predecessor. So does Ghost of Yōtei fall under this as well? Well, yes and no. Let's go ahead and dive into what makes Ghost of Yōtei different from its predecessor, starting with the narrative structure. Before we get into it, if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. So, with that out of the way, let's get into what makes Ghost of Yōtei different from its predecessor. Ghost of Tsushima offered a pretty linear narrative in terms of progression, which isn't a bad thing. It allowed for a streamlined narrative that was easy to follow. Ghost of Yōtei offers different routes you can choose on your adventure. It's the same story, but you can choose different plot threads, giving the player a bit more freedom of how they want to approach the game's story. This one is all up to preference. Some people like a more streamlined approach to the narrative, and some don't. So far, I am liking this approach a little more compared to Tsushima, which is weird because I would normally prefer a more linear approach, but I think Yōtei does a great job at making each zone have its own distinct plot thread, while also encompassing the overall narrative. Ghost of Yōtei isn't as direct of a sequel as you may expect, as the game setting is about 300 years after Ghost of Tsushima's story. Set in the Edo period in the heart of Ezo, which is known as today as Hokkaido. It's quite the departure from the island of Tsushima, with one of the most iconic mountains I have ever laid eyes on. Mount Yōtei was never on my radar when it came to iconic looking mountains in the world. But by golly, they've done it.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Ezo is filled with the usual main biomes you would expect in an open world game. Each area is segmented, giving each a distinct feel. While some people may not like this approach, I really enjoy it as it allows me to focus on one area at a time. It's not as overwhelming, and I think it helps with the game's pacing a bit. The main plot for Ghost of Tsushima revolved around Jin and his fight against the Mongol invasion, and while there were personal dynamics like his relationship with his uncle and his personal conviction with being an honorable samurai, Ghost of Yōtei's story is all personal, with Atsu's personal quest to avenge her family, even if it's at the cost of herself. It's definitely a different flavor. I will say that the whole revenge trope is kinda getting old, but Ghost of Yōtei so far has introduced certain plot points that keep this generic theme interesting. I just hope that it keeps it engaging to the very end. This may be an obvious one to point out, but Ghost of Yōtei features a different protagonist, one that is completely different from Jin Sakai. And their differences go beyond their gender. Atsu is a mercenary who is set on getting revenge for her family that was tragically taken away from her at the hands of the Yōtei Six. She is not honored bound like Jin the samurai was. Ghost of Tsushima showed Jin's struggle with his honor as a samurai and protecting his homeland. The two seemed to be at odds with one another. It was hard for him to stay honorable while also protecting those he loved. I really like how both characters are very distinct from one another in both their motivations and their personality. Jin Sakai tends to be more stern and serious, while Atsu can be a bit more cheeky and sarcastic. She is rebellious in nature, while Jin has a clear code of honor and duty. This is not to say that one is better than the other. It's more so just saying that these two characters are vastly different from one another, and it's not a copy and paste character. Next is the music. In Ghost of Tsushima, Jin Sakai plays the flute and was able to change the weather depending on what song he plays. Sounds familiar? Ghost of Yōtei takes this element and changes it to where the songs you play on the shamisen guides you to different points of interest like the wolves' dens and hot springs. It unfortunately does not change the weather as far as I'm aware, like it did for Ghost of Tsushima, which is a real shame because my game loves to be cloudy and rainy when all I want is clear blue skies. If it would just add new songs that would give you the ability to change the weather as well, then this would be perfect, but oh well. I will say that I do enjoy that there is more pieces of music you can learn, even though the Song of Storms isn't one of them. In Ghost of Tsushima, Jin Sakai is a samurai whose main melee weapon was his katana. Throughout the game, you would acquire different stances that gave you advantages over different weapon types. Ghost of Yōtei instead has different weapons that takes on that role. And honestly, I much prefer this over the stances. I personally just like having more weapon variety, and Yōtei gives you 5 different weapon types, each with their own unique animations and special characteristics. You have the katana, double katana, yari, which is like a spear, the odachi, which is like this two-handed heavy sword, and then you have the kusarigama, which is a chain sickle, giving Atsu the ability to pull enemies closer. Each weapon has their own advantages and disadvantages depending on what weapon the enemy is wielding. I personally love the odachi, it just feels so powerful. It's basically like holding a buster sword. Along with your melee weapons, you also have your bows and arrows, and also your tools like kunai, bombs, and pocket sand.
Pocket sand!
Finally, we have the introduction of a wolf companion, sort of. At first, your wolf buddy decides to join you sporadically, but eventually you will be able to have your wolf buddy fight alongside you in combat. As you progress through the game, you will unlock new abilities with your wolf and also grow your bond with him. It's a nice addition, and I'm glad that it doesn't ruin the balance of the game. You can even turn it off in the menu if you want to go completely solo. Overall, Ghost of Tsushima and Ghost of Yōtei are 2 completely different games. Of course, when you look at it in a more technical sense, they do play very similarly. So if you didn't like Ghost of Tsushima, I don't think you're going to like Ghost of Yōtei either. I really like that there are elements that make them both stand out, like the protagonist, the setting, the story, and of course the combat having different weapons introduced. Ghost of Tsushima offers a more traditional samurai game where your katana is your main weapon and honor is a very important aspect. Ghost of Yōtei has Atsu wield multiple melee weapons, with honor not really being a major concern for her, as she is a mercenary. Both games may look really similar in gameplay, and to be fair, they kinda are, but they do have differences that make each game worth playing. Thankfully, Ghost of Yōtei doesn't completely replace Tsushima, which was honestly a concern that I had going into this game. I think as of recording this, I do prefer Ghost of Yōtei, but that could easily change in the coming years. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Are you on the fence about picking up Ghost of Yōtei? Let me know down below, and be sure to like this video and consider subscribing for more content like this. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. God bless.